guys, Gareth here from Heartfelt Horsemanship. In the video we did on softness versus lightness, we asked people to submit questions or topics that they want covered in our YouTube videos, and we had 2 great submissions so far. One of them is about inside leg to outside rein, asking a little more detail on what it means, but also how that applies to Heartfelt Horsemanship students, and I suppose also to a lot of other natural horsemanship programs. So I just want to clarify something quickly. Natural horsemanship has its origins in the vaquero in Southern California. Now, that form of horsemanship was founded by the Spanish that had come over. So if you really look at the roots of natural horsemanship, it is closer to classical horsemanship from the Spanish riding school than a lot of what we see in conventional riding these days. So what I mean by that is the roots, the process that you go to get to it is very similar to what the Spanish riding school was hundreds of years ago. Now, what that means is that our leg cues aren't all that different to what Xenophon and Elias Podolsky taught. I'm not a dressage rider, but I have done significant reading from masters like Xenophon and Podolsky, and their leg positions aren't different to us, and in fact it's not that different to what is conventional either. The only difference comes in terms of timing, when you apply it, and the reason for using it. I think a lot of conventional riding people have forgotten about the why and the appropriate time to use certain tools. The lack of why is the reason for getting that timing wrong. Jamie is sitting on Dreamy, so I'm going to have her chime in quickly.
So I think part of where people get lost on this concept is it's still an appropriate concept. I think where people get a little screwed up, and following what Gareth has said, is like everybody's doing it, but nobody or trying to do it. Nobody knows why. And so if you don't have softness and lightness, it's not going to work out for you. If you don't have your isolations in place, it's not going to work out for you. So this is a concept that is more appropriate as you're developing higher levels of riding, as you're developing performance riding, for what you're going to do in the beginning of our program, what you're doing when you're starting young horses or dealing with troubled horses, or like us today, we're just cruising on an outride and wanted to make this video while we're out today. It may not be the most appropriate time to use that concept, but there is definitely a time and place for it. It is an applicable idea, but it's something that when you're just learning to do your isolations, disengagement, move the forequarters back up and travel forward, it does not fit in to what we're doing as of yet. So it doesn't mean if someone asks you to do that, it's entirely wrong. Where we need to sort of drill in this idea is that there is a time that it's absolutely appropriate and a time where it's really not an appropriate skill to be practicing.
So when people are doing module 1, or what we teach them in a clinic or in early days of lessons on a young horse, we talk about isolations. So if I'm turning my horse, my outside leg comes in front of the girth, and I isolate just the forequarters, okay? And that is how I turn.
So casual direct rein.
And we're going to do an update on the video we did on leg cues, because some people have said they couldn't hear clearly on it, so we're going to redo that one. But the point there is that we want the forequarters to move so the weight is still carried on the hind end. When we want to disengage the hindquarters, which has become something that people have confused because of the inside leg to outside rein, they think they use inside leg to turn their horse. Now if you use your inside leg to turn your horse, the horse falls on the forehand, okay? So when you're doing an isolated turn, so nothing fancy, we need to isolate and build lightness on just having outside leg, direct rein, no outside rein, and get them to step across. So that is what needs to be good for you to combine inside leg to outside rein, you need your direct rein and your outside leg working well. And also you need to be able to have your lateral working well. Now this is an inside leg asking for lateral, not for the hindquarters. So it's just a slightly different. Forequarters, hindquarters, lateral. I need to have this to be able to get that correct bend, completely isolated from my steering. So Danny is very young, we use him for students. Okay, there we go, so you get that step across. Those are the things that we need in place before we do the combination. So Jamie's just going to add something else in there.
I think I'm going to reiterate what you're saying. So understanding that the leg to rein combination can only work if our horse is off the forehand. So like Gareth is saying, people are using their inside leg behind the girth to turn their horses. What happens is we lighten the hind end and we actually are shifting the horse's weight to the front end. And what we want to create a forward horse who can travel in an athletic manner is we actually want the weight on the hindquarters. So by lightening the hindquarters, we're not actually engaging them. What we need to do is lighten the front end and have enough softness through the horse's body that they can feel the combination of where our leg pushes the hindquarters up to your rein.
Okay, and you reminded me of something else that we need for that. We need a clear forward on a loose rein from a light phase of your seat. So if I ask for forward, it doesn't have to be drilled forward, because when we're combining, we're using two active reins at a time, which means that a horse that isn't going forward is going to lose all the momentum. Okay, so that's another aspect.
So you only ever have a directing rein and a supporting rein. So if you're trying to kick your horse along to get them to go and you've got short reins and you're trying to jockey them around for direction, your legs aren't effective. And when your legs aren't effective, the concept of leg to rein is completely impossible. And I see a lot of people who maybe learned a little bit to ride something in that style, but they don't have any softness, they don't have control over their own legs, they don't have control over their legs talking to the horse's legs, and this is why this concept fails.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just talk about what the concept actually, what the term actually means. The term is referring to when you're on a circle, or you want your horse straight on a circle. Now, it's a very confusing concept, straight on a circle. Circle is shaped like this. When your horse is on a circle, you want them shaped like that. If your horse is straight on a circle, they actually bend. Okay, so
the idea is your spines are going to align to create the appropriate bend around your inside leg.
So if you were to draw the circle that the horse is moving on, or the corner, if
the part of the circle.
Yeah, because a corner is a 5-meter circle, or a 10-meter, depending on what points you're moving between. So your horse should be in line with that. If you drew the white chalk line, your horse should be along that line. That's straight on the circle. So that is the point of inside leg to outside rein. Now what it's actually talking about is that your inside leg makes contact with the horse to get them to bend around you, and you kind of bring it to your outside rein, which is stopping your forward movement. It's not a pullback, it's just a contact. Okay? In that, I still need my direct rein, which directs the horse's nose, and my outside leg. So that gets that bend. Okay,
it's a nice explanation.
Well, because he hasn't got to this. So let me just get him backwards a little bit so you guys can see. Show you again in the other direction. My inside leg to my outside rein. I bring my inside leg to my outside rein, and my outside leg pushes the inside rein. And that gets that bend in the direction you want to go. Okay? Now, the reason Danny hasn't learnt this is we want all those isolations perfect before we progress to it. So with Danny, for example,
if we put those isolations before He has appropriate flexions. Danny still has a tendency to pull sometimes.
Exactly. So we don't
If we
have to
put
stop that.
those before, we're actually teaching him to brace against us, and one of our getting principles is never ever release on a brace. So if we don't have softness and lightness in our isolations, trying to teach Danny appropriate flexions is only going to cause him to lock at the pole versus soften the pole, and fight against our reins even more. And you know, it's sort of a strange catch-22 with a horse that we're teaching beginning riders on, you know, how, you know, eventually he will get it, and we're doing enough riding with him outside of students to get some flexions. But because his pulling problem had become so bad, it's going to take time to get there, and it might be what you're going through with your horse, sort of trying to take him to the next level, and start preparing for something like dressage.
Yeah, and so with a horse that Danny has a tendency to pull in one direction and really slow in the turns to the left, to the right. It is completely inappropriate to start this combining of aids if he is not responding lightly to the isolation. Okay, there he's doing it really nicely. But he needs to be responding, so there it is to the left, okay. He needs to respond lightly, lift his shoulder on the isolation before I progress him, because I am combining, let's take just the reins into account now. I am stopping forward momentum with one rein and directing with the other, but I'm basically touching both the activating knots, or if you're in a bit, both sides of the bit. And if a horse doesn't know this well, it's going to cause confusion and frustration for them. So you need to make sure that your isolations are perfect before you progress to this. So it is not wrong. By no means is it wrong. The times it's wrong is if you're just on an outride and you want to do a turn, there's no reason to be pulling on activating both reins. And every time you turn to pick up on both reins to get that bend, you're going to lose your flexibility because the horse is going to get dull to those cues.
If you do not have forward and a good solid casual rein forward, and very effective isolations, it is inappropriate. If you cannot isolate one rein to one foot, you're probably not going to be very successful with that skill.
So how would a Heartfelt Horsemanship student apply this? You would apply it by doing 75% of your riding. Let's say you get to the stage now where your horse is responding brilliantly to your isolations, your direct rein, your hindquarter disengagement, your backup, your go forward, your transitions, all those are going fantastically. That means that you're at the level you can now start working on things like this. But it means you only work on it about 15% of the time. If you go and you drill your horse on this, you'll find all your isolations will start disappearing. They will start getting heavy on that rein and pulling against you because you've always got contact. Another video we're going to redo is the concept of the boiling frog. The reason we work with the long rein so much of the time is that there's more of a dynamic. The horse feels more of a difference. If I use the same amount of energy by picking up and just sliding my rein, Danny will respond. But if I'm holding tight, let's say I take both reins, he's got contact there and I do it, he feels that difference less. You see, it's the exact same amount of energy.
And actually, if you look at his eye, he just closes his eye and he goes, "Oh, bother."
I'll check out.
Yeah, oh, bother, I don't understand what you're saying. And when that checkout right there is actually a horse losing confidence. Yeah. And what we're trying to do, you know, not just with our easy trained horses, but with all the horses that we have in rehab and all the horses that we're starting, is to make them feel like they're successful. As soon as horses start losing confidence, you're in trouble and you're actually in danger. Yeah. So if you saw Danny sort of close his eyes, and you can even see the expression of his ears right now, he goes, "Great, someone else is going to pull on my reins and I don't understand what it means and I feel stupid." And a horse like Danny, who starts feeling picked on, ends up pulling and fighting his rider more.
Cool, I hope that helps, guys. We've got another one we're going to do today, also from the same person, which was about doing long and low without being on the forehand, which I'm quite excited about. We'll do that one this afternoon. We'll get this one up today. Please let us know if there's any other concepts you want to talk about, or if you've got further questions on this. It's quite an in-depth topic. If you're a Heartfelt student, it's a lot easier for us to give you a plan forward, if maybe some video coaching. But if not and you want some more details, let us know.